Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and very good morning to everyone, especially our respected Professor Dr. Khairuddin Muhammad Ali. In the class of Sociology of Education, we will present our topic about political forces influencing education and schools. We are from Group 6, consists of Muhammad Shahizad bin Muhammad Zukri, Muaz bin Tobroni, Muhammad Amirul Iman bin Zainal Ardi, Ni Alif Daniel bin Saiful Adli Idzihar, and Muhammad Shahir bin Hamidun. Contents of our topic consists of background of political parties in Malaysia, politics and political education, relationship between politics and schooling, new economy policy and integration, dualism, and lastly, reflection. Without further ado, let's move to our first topic. My name is Muhammad Shahizad bin Muhammad Zukri, and I will present about background of political parties in Malaysia. Historically, following the defeat of the British and after the Japanese occupation, political parties started to grow in Malaysia. At this time, there were three parties joined together in the fight for independence. There were the United Malays National Organization UMNO, Malayan Chinese Association MCA, and Malayan Indian Congress MIC. In addition, there were several other parties which supported the independence movement, such as Angkatan Wanita Sedar Awas, Angkatan Pemuda Insaf API, National Malay Party of Malaysia PKMM, Malayan Communist Party MCP, and Islamic Party of Malaya PAS. Needless to say, all of the previous six prime ministers were UMNO members. Tunku Abdul Rahman, the first prime minister, was known as the father of independence. The second prime minister was Tun Abdul Razak, known as the father of development. Tun Hussein On, as the third prime minister, was recognized as the father of unity. The fourth and the longest Prime Minister of Malaysia was Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. Many world leaders referred to him as a third world hero for his contribution in the development of the new economy in Asia. The fifth Prime Minister was Abdullah Ahmad Badawi, who was known for his contribution in integrating the nation through the concept of a civilized society, Islam Hadari. The sixth Prime Minister was Najib Tun Abdul Razak, who introduced and promoted the One Malaysia concept. However, 14th general election in Malaysia in 2018 provided a two different turn this nation's development, though stability and elections have been consistent since its independence. For the first time in history of Malaysia, the ruling party United Malays National Organization UMNO was defeated by the opposition. Demanding changes in the society, Tun Dr. Mahathir won the election with his new party, Pakatan Harapan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So I will continue our presentation with topic politics and political education. The definition of politics is derived from the Greek word polis. It means the city. Politics therefore mean to an ancient Greek the sign of the city-state or pertaining to the state and the government. In ancient Greece, the science which deals with the state and government or with the political activities of the community was called politics. So, today politics refers to the art of government, the art of directing or guiding the policy of the government towards a particular goal. In recent times, politics as the theory of the state or of the government is almost fading away. Instead, the concept of power has become central to the city of politics. on the other hand, encompasses the activities involved in getting and using power in public life and being able to influence decisions that affect a country or a society. Moreover, it includes matters concerned with getting or using power within a particular group or organization. Besides that, politics describes a system of political affairs. Politics is therefore an act whereby someone uses his or her power or authority to influence the decision of others to his or her advantage. In the term of authority, in this context, means the power or right a person has to give orders to people. Influence, on the other hand, is the power that somebody has to make people behave the way he or she wants them to behave. So now we move to politics and education. Education has been regarded as the main agent for the political socialization of the young into the national political culture. Education and the preservation of the status quo, national integration and stability. Education also is the primary agent for the selection and training of political elites. And last, education and the preservation of the elites' power, controlling, organizing, and regulating education.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Amirul Iman bin Zainal Ardi. Today I'll be presenting on the relationship between politics and education. First, let's talk about how politics and education are related. The values of political structures determine the values that will be taught in schools. This can be seen in its curriculum, type of textbooks, and the language of instruction. Inversely, education can affect politics in terms of economic development, citizenship, socialization, and legitimization. Simply put, education can affect politics in the sense that it shapes the people who will be participating in said culture that is shaped by said politics. And to continue in that same commonality, the educational system and political system share a lot of the same components, following a very organized structure consisting of multiple moving parts and parties involved within the system, as compared to by C.J. Hearn, wherein C.J. Hearn talks about how the political system has multiple levels within its organizational structure, and how that is also reflected within the educational system as well. Wherein the educational system consists of teachers, students, curriculums, types of pedagogical methodologies, while political systems are made up of government, legislation, and things of the sort. Moving on to how politics affects education, we can start by saying that different countries have different political cultures, with schools being the main medium for educating political culture. Ibrahim Saad said that schools represent the social agent for a nation because it not only communicates the values of the culture, but also the values of the ruling party that rules over that education system. In the case of Malaysia, it is based on the Rukun Negara ideology, emphasizing unity and equality with the goal of achieving the new economic policy. In that sense, politics and education are symbiotic in the sense that one affects the other and vice versa. Education shapes people, while politics provides education with the tools to do so. As such, the sustainability of institutions depends on the ruling party giving it proper support. Meaning that while it is symbiotic in nature, politics has a sort of authority over education because it shapes the way it is being built, and it shapes the way education shapes people as a result.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nick Alif Daniel bin Saiful Ali Izhar, and I will be presenting new economic policy and integration. First thing first, the new economic policy was launched by the Malaysian government back then in 1971 under the second Malaysian Prime Minister, as we know as Tun Abdul Razak, and the National Operation Council, short form NOC, formulated the new economic policy as a social re-engineering and affirmative action program in the aftermath of the 13 May incident, which is the blood incident in Malaysia. This policy was implemented back then in 1971 for a 20-year period ahead, and was replaced in 1991 by the National Development Policy, also as known as NDP. Okay, proceed. The special rights for the Malays and indigenous tribes in Sabah and Sarawak, such as Iban, Kadazan Dusun and Dayak, were resulted from the statistic that stated Bumiputra only held 2.4% of the economy, while the rest in Chinese and foreign hands. Some of the example for the foreign hands is outsider who invest in our economic sector, such as palm oil and industry. Okay, let's move on to the special rights for the Malay and indigenous tribes. First, Islam as the official religion, Bahasa Melayu as the official language. The third one, the power of Sultan is upheld in the Constitution of Malaysia. Special right for Malay consists of scholarship, quota for university, quota in civil service and permit. Meanwhile, for the special right for others is only for nationality. Okay, let's move on to the goals of new economic policy. First thing first, the goal of the policy is to reduce and eradicate poverty regardless of ethnicity that exists in Malaysia. And the second policy is to restructure the society. The third one is to eliminate community identification through economic sectors. As an example, Chinese is only specialized for plumbing industry, plumbing sector, and Indian only in estate area, and Malays is in the rural areas. So the stigma and must be stopped through this third goal of this policy. Okay, the fourth one is to accelerate the process of national integration and unity. And the last goal of this policy is the initial target is to move the ratio of economic ownership in Malaysia from little amount to a dominating amount. Numbers of ratio in the country from 2 equal 4 to 3 equal 4. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, let me proceed with the implementation of NEP in Malaysia. The second, third, fourth and fifth Malaysia plans implemented the NEP's abstract policies and goals. Okay, to meet the NEP's 30% Bumiputra equity target, some specific requirements were imposed. A requirement that all initial public offerings, which is the IPOs, set aside a 30% share for Bumiputra investors was one of them. Okay, however, this regulation has been particularly criticized because the 30% target remains in effect after the IPO, which means if Bumiputra investors sell their shares, the company must issue new shares to keep the proportion of Bumiputra shares above 30%. Okay, on the other hand, from the perspective of education from NEP, one of the more contentious aspects of the NEP its education policy. Until 2002, Bumiputras were given quotas for admission to public universities. As an example, the UITM. However, because the population figures used to calculate the quotas were based on 1970 figures, the Bumiputras were allotted a significantly lower percentage of places than originally intended in later years. Despite this, many non-Bumiputra still saw the quotas as unfairly favouring the Bumiputra for the Malays and the indigenous tribes. And these quotas were abolished by the government back then in 2003. Okay, let's check out the political factors influencing the education. The first factor is public policy. The second one is democratic. The third one is dictatorship. And the last factor of politics influencing education is nationalism. Okay, last but not least, the integration. One of the main goals of character and citizenship education in a multiracial and multicultural environment is to particularly to teach students how to promote racial harmony and integration. Okay, the first goal is the civics and moral education. The second goal is social studies and history. The third one is Independent and National Day. The fourth one is campaigns, and the last one national school.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Shahid bin Hamidun, and for this part, I will be presenting the theory that is related to today's presentation, which is dualism. Firstly, we will have a look at the meaning of dualism. So, what does it mean by dualism? In general, dualism goes by the meaning of two or double. However, in context of education, dualism is a system of education that plans and accommodates two distinct and irreducible principles to becoming one, and these two systems were initially opposing each other. Why? It is because they differ in terms of their general philosophy. So in the previous slide, we have been clear about the definition of dualism. But it has been mentioned about two systems. So what are those two systems are? Firstly, we have religious educational system, and the second one, we have modern educational system. These systems are not parallel with each other, when Islamic education has a different approach to education compared to the modern or secular system that places a greater emphasis on physical and material development. Firstly, we will have a look at religious educational system. So for this system, the religious subject in the curriculum includes Arabic, grammar, Quranic interpretation, Sharia, and others. Meanwhile, for the modern educational system, the Western colonial powers introduced their language and their system of education. However, regarding religious or traditional schools, the colonialists allowed them to continue the religious or traditional system of education, teaching the same subjects, and the school did not even try to introduce the new learning and teaching system. They kept teaching the same syllabus that had been unreformed for centuries. This was how this school wanted Muslims to live in status quo or old-fashioned way. The teachers taught students in large groups, and the students rarely had a chance to discuss their idea with the teachers. Most of the subjects were molding the students into people who find it difficult to adapt to modern institutions. So, the situation just now shows that how secular ideas have prevented the Islamic religious education from finding its own strength and destroy its ability to compete with the modern system. While religion institutes that education be human and for citizens to respect knowledge, the secular system treats religion as something without connection to the modern life. This will lead people to see religion as not worthy of being practiced. Secularists created this system in order to confuse people about Islam. So it really shows that this secular system of education was corrupt. In this part, we will discuss about the educational dualism in Malaysia. In the beginning of the 1970s, there were efforts to promote Islamic education principles for the betterment of the nation, especially in terms of growth and development. Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad launched the Islamization policy to support this idea in 1983. At the same time, Malaysia Ministry of Education introduced the new primary school curriculum, or known as KBSR, in 1982. Finally, the government found a balanced and holistic curriculum to students. The new curriculum was introduced to 302 schools and was later disseminated throughout Malaysia. Since Malaysia is a multiracial country, promoting unity among the race was priority. Hence, the government established the National Philosophy of Education in 1988 to implement the national education system. This philosophy has become the guiding light for the new curriculum, which focuses on spreading values, beliefs, and attitudes needed for the balanced growth of individuals and society. The National Philosophy of Malaysian Education was formulated under the Education Act 550 as follows. Education in Malaysia is an ongoing effort towards further developing the potential of individuals in a holistic and integrated manner, so as to produce individuals who are intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically balanced and harmonic, based on a firm belief in and devotion to God. Such an effort is designed to produce Malaysian citizens who are knowledgeable and competent, with high moral standards, and who are responsible and capable of achieving a high level of personal well-being, as well as contribute to the harmony and betterment of the family, society, and nation at large. Even though this philosophy could help an individual to achieve a holistic and integrated manner, much must be done to ensure this idea continues to serve people effectively. Everyone must appreciate this philosophy in order to create balanced citizens. Dualism in education is not preferable, since it causes immoral behavior and the degradation of the values of societies. The dualism will result in the corruption in religion and the production of confused graduates who will not represent their culture and religion. The dualism of educational system has lost negatively resulted not only the essential meaning of Islamic terminologies and concepts, but worse, totally lost the essential achievement in Islamic education. However, the dilemma of educational dualism occurred in many countries, continuously affecting progress, social life, some aspect of politics, and even the economy. So, here are the some Muslim dilemma over the educational system in Malaysia. The first one, we have national system. The teaching of Islamic religious knowledge is ineffective in the national school. Islamic knowledge to be inadequately taught for the modern era. The government's education policy is being over-concerned with physical and material development and manpower training. Last but not least, it is not optimistic in implementing the NEP and the KBSM. The next one, we have Islamic educational system. The content of the curriculum is limited and outdated. The methodology employed in instruction does not encourage or stimulate inquiry or critical thinking. Islamic schools are poorly financed and largely depend on resources from the various states' religious departments and private endowment. As for both systems, graduates will not have the integrated personality of an ideal Muslim. In a nutshell, Muslims have started to recognize the importance of both secular and religious science for the full growth of the human personality, which will contribute towards the development of the country. There is also the need for an integrated curriculum instilled with the Islamic spirit that would allow students to acquire all kinds of knowledge, including natural science. There should also be a third educational system that unifies Islamic and modern aim and resources.